What is going on, you guys? Rochelle here, bringing you an idea for a new series. And my idea is to show you guys the thought process behind solving a coding problem. So if you like this, please don't forget to like and comment on this video so I know to make some more videos like this. So today I'm on HackerRank and I'm going to be doing a simple data structures problem for you involving arrays. So if you don't know what an array is, you should check out my data structures tutorial, which is on the screen now. And I cover arrays, hash maps, basically a bunch of different data structures there. So today's problem is reversing an array and printing it out with space separation. So what we have in our input is the number of elements in the array along with the elements that are going to be in the array. So as you can see, there's going to be 4 elements and the array is 1, 4, 3, 2. And the output that we want to give is that reversed with spaces in between it, which would be 2, 3, 4, 1. Pretty simple, right? So I'm going to be solving the problem in JavaScript today, but if you want to see it in a different language, you can just let me know in the comments below, and if I know the language, I'll do next week's tutorial in that language. So as you can see in this JavaScript file, there's some functionality that's already written for us, but we're just going to ignore that. They already get us the variables that we need, so we don't have to worry about the stuff on the top part. As you can see, we have a variable n, which is the number of elements in the array, and we have a variable r, arr, which is an integer array containing the values that's passed in on the second line right here. I'm actually going to copy this and put it on this function so it'll be easier for you guys to understand what I'm doing. Okay, so now we know what the input is and the output. So let's think about the problem and how we should approach it. We want to print out all of the elements in reverse order. So that would mean we would want to go backwards through the array. Now, how would we go through the array in the first place? Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is looping. So we can use some loops like a for loop or a while loop to solve this issue. If you don't know what a for loop or a while loop is, you can check out the video on the screen now where I explain looping and conditionals. So in this problem, I'm just going to use a for loop. A while loop is also perfectly acceptable, but I just decided to use a for loop. So let's go ahead and set up our for loop syntax. In JavaScript, all you have to write is for, parentheses, you're going to have an initialization, a condition, and what you want to be done after a loop is completed. Then we're going to have some curly braces where we can tell it what to do in each loop. So that's the basic structure for a for loop in JavaScript. So I realized while editing this video that I accidentally put commas instead of semicolons to separate the different elements in a for loop. That's supposed to be semicolons, and I fix it later in the tutorial, but just so you guys know, semicolons, not commas. So let's actually think about what we know about arrays, and keep in mind that we want to do it in reverse order. So what is the index of the last element in an array? So when you're counting an array, the first element is the 0th index, which means it's all offset by 1. So instead of the last element being the length of the array, it's actually length minus 1. Since we want to start at the end, we're going to initialize our variable to length minus 1, so we can access the last variable first. So I'm just going to type var I equals n minus 1, since in this case, n is the length. Next, we want the condition. Like I said previously, the first element of an array has index 0, so we don't ever want it to go below 0. So here we're just going to do where I is greater than or equal to 0. And lastly, we need to update I somehow to make it go through each variable. So we know we're starting at the end, which is the 3rd index, and then we want to go to the 2nd index, then the 1st, then the 0th. So that's just subtracting 1. So here we're just going to do I minus minus, which is just subtracting 1 from the current value of I. So we have the condition set up, and this will go through each index in reverse order. But we're not actually getting the value in the array, and we're also not storing them. So to store it, we're going to want to make a variable to keep track of what we're doing. So let's just make a variable called results, which will store the resulting string that we want to print out. Now it's important that we initialize this to an empty string because when we're concatenating extra stuff at the end, which basically is saying when we use the plus sign operator, it'll know what behavior to use. So we have this resulting string and we know we want to print it out at the end. So we don't forget later, let's just put that print results at the end. Okay, now we just need to actually update result. So inside of the loop, all we need to do is grab the value at the current index I, append it to the result, and add a space at the end so that it'll be space separated. The reason why we need to add result in the beginning is so that the value doesn't keep getting overwritten each time. If we didn't do that, the end result would only be one number and a space. But this will allow them to stack, making it a number and a space, then two numbers with two spaces, and so on and so forth. So we look at this and we say, okay, yeah, we're probably done. But if we ran the tests, we would see that it wouldn't print out 2 space 3 space 4 space 1. It would print out 2 space 3 space 4 space 1 space. So that's not right. There's many ways to get rid of that last space, but I'm just going to use a string method called trim, and that basically just gets rid of all the extra white space on the outsides of the string. And that's it. There's one solution, so when we run the code, we see that it passed. Now, we can actually submit this code if we'd like to, but I have a couple of other versions I'd like to show you. So I just copied our old code and I'm gonna touch it up here for our second solution. And that solution is going to be using a while loop, but using an array, and basically creating an exact replica of the array but reversed, and then joining on spaces. So to do that, all we have to do is change the result variable to be an empty array, and then inside of the for loop, we're going to want to just concatenate it to the array. Now for arrays, we can't just use the plus sign like we can with strings, but they do have a built-in push function, which will add it to the end of the array. Okay, so we did that, but now result is just an array. We want it to be a space-separated string. So now we're going to use the array method join, which will use whatever character we pass in as the glue to put the pieces together. So here, instead of result.trim, we'll do result.join, and we're going to put a space here. And that will give us the same result. When we run the code, you can see that the output's matched. So that's good. That's our second way of solving this problem. The last solution is going to probably be the best solution, only because you're using functionality that you know works. When you're a professional software engineer, people don't like it when you reinvent the wheel, which basically means you are manually creating code which already exists and has already been tested and is known to work. And the function that we're going to reuse today is called reverse. And it can be used on an array object, like R in this case, and it'll just reverse the array. So all we have to do is do R equals R.reverse. And now R has been reversed. Nice and easy. Now the last thing we need to do is just space separate it and print it out. And we can just use that same function that we used in the previous solution, which is the join method. So we can do R equals R.join and put a space there so it joins on spaces. Then we just have to console log out the value and it should work. When we run this code, we can see that it worked. So now I'll just do a quick overview of the problem and how we solved it today. So we were given an array and we wanted to reverse it and print it out with space separation. The first approach that we took was using a while loop and concatenating the values to a string. As you see on the screen, here is our final solution. The second solution that we tried was similar to the first. We used a while loop, but instead of concatenating to a string, we created an array where we reversed the array and then we joined on spaces. And thirdly, we used some built-in JavaScript functionality, mainly the reverse function, and we just reversed the array and joined it on spaces and printed it out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to give this video a like. If I get enough positive feedback, I will continue to make videos like this. Comment if you guys have any suggestions or would like me to use a different language. I do really just want to help you guys out, so if there's something I can improve on, or you guys would find it more helpful if I used Java or C or some other language, please just let me know. I would love to do that for you guys. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.